Commission of the County of Putnam is now sitting in regular session to transact all business required of it by law or any other business that may come before it at this time. And we have flags in the back and we have flags in the front, so you may face the way you're facing, but we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all.
What do you have for us this morning, Brian?
Yes, sir. I have your red registers for your initials to approve the spending and paying of the bills. I also have for you a order to transfer from the General County Fund to the Putnam County Employee Benefit Fund the sum of $9,307.50.
Make a motion to approve the orders and invoices as reflected in edit registers as presented by our county clerk.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 And while I'm up here, I want to remind everybody in the audience as well as the commission, we're YouTubing today, and if everybody will come to the microphone when you speak and speak loudly enough so that the folks at home can hear and stuff like that. I'm going to try to be the microphone police today and see how that works out. So, but thank you, gentlemen. Hopefully your last meeting went well. Jeremy did a good job of pretending to be me, hopefully.
Thank you, Brian.
Yes, sir.
Approval of prior meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve prior meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Erroneous assessments, combine and divide.
We didn't have any, did we? Okay.
None. Personnel payroll changes.
Make a motion to approve personnel and payroll changes as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Payment of bills.
Make a motion to approve payment of bills.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commission reports. Commissioner Skidmore.
All right. We do have a upcoming Development Authority meeting on Tuesday, March 23rd at 4:30 p.m. There is a Regional Intergovernmental Council meeting this Thursday, March 11th at 12 p.m. And we will have a transportation meeting here in this courtroom on Monday, March 29th at 9:30 a.m. That's all I have to report.
Mr. Ellis.
Have a fire board meeting this evening at 6 o'clock. That's it.
Yeah, we have a planning commission meeting at 7 p.m. on March the 16th. We have the subcommittee has been continuing to review the ordinances. There are some additional changes that they will take to the full planning commission, and depending on where that goes, it might come here to the county commission. And the DAYA program, we have something on the agenda today, so we'll get into that a little bit later. This is a part where we have public comments. Is there anybody from the audience that wants to make public comments for anything that is not on the agenda? Come forward and get close to the mic so we can hear you. Either one.
Okay. Can I?
Yeah.
This is not my forte, I'm sorry. Okay.
The closer you get, the better we can hear it for the
Okay.
record.
Is that better?
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay. This is intimidating, so I apologize if I fumble over my words here.
Please state your name and address
Sure.
first.
My name is Sarah Lane. I am attempting to petition on behalf of Deerfield Estates to get city water brought up the hill to the residents at Deerfield. And it was previously known, I believe, as the Wells development. Terry Wells actually has the development as well, and had purchased those lots and so forth. So I'm coming to you as a resident of Deerfield Estates in Putnam County. I'm also coming to you as a mother. We are a development without city water, and the development has been attempting to get city water since 1996. I have a copy of a letter that was sent from a resident of Deerfield in 1996 to the Putnam Water Company. I believe it was called South Putnam at the time. And this was a correspondence between the Putnam Service Commission with regards to the Fraser's Bottom Pliny Water Project that was supposed to be resolved in 1996. This deal was to allow West Virginia American Water to take over servicing the residents that would have been serviced by the Putnam County District. In this deal, West Virginia Water was to obtain the rights to service Hurricane Creek and the Wells development, i.e. Deerfield Estates, and that would help service all of the residents at Deerfield Estates. West Virginia Water did obtain the rights to that area. However, they did not service Deerfield. They never took it up the hill, basically. So a lot of the people that had purchased at that time understood that they were going to get city water and then never did. So that's a little brief history of what happened there. So, fast forward 20 years, we have a few residents that have attempted to tie into the city water by building their own lines. That has worked for maybe 2 down at the base of the hill where the pressure is adequate, or subpar at best, I would say. We actually purchased our home in 2016, and it was listed as city water. Unfortunately, that was not necessarily true. We had someone that had built a city water line, a water line to the city down on the base of Hurricane Creek. And that water pump blew that year. I was 8 months pregnant, and we had no water at all, and no way to get it. West Virginia Water quoted us close to $300,000 to get that water to us. So my husband crawled into our non-functioning cistern, had dead rats floating in it. And we had to use that until we got the pump fixed, and we cleaned out the cistern, and we have been functioning on the cistern since. To say it best, if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we're like floating in survival mode every day because that's a basic necessity that we don't have, that we struggle with every day and are concerned about. So, even after paying for a filter to try and clean out the cistern water to get into our home, I have a picture of what our bathtub looks like. At best, it's a murky gray-green color, and that's what my children bathe in. That's not okay with me, and it should not be okay with anybody up here. I'm sorry, this is emotional. Our neighbors have also attempted lines, and we have one right next to us that has blown, so he is now functioning on cistern. Every single person up from us, approximately 10 homes, are all hauling water in the backs of their trucks to get their water, and that's how they function every day. We have a lot of healthcare workers, a lot of elderly, a lot of military, and that's not a functioning way of life in the long term. They're attempting Band-Aids to cover up a bigger problem, and the bigger problem is we need city water. We are aware of the cost. We are aware that in the grand scheme of things, there are people that suffer worse than we do, but we're just asking for help. We are not asking for a handout. We are willing to pay, but we can't pay $60,000 apiece in order to get city water. We are 2-income households with children and mortgages and just attempting to get by. And that's why we're here. We're trying. I guess they've tried times in the past, but it's my turn to try. And I think I'm here for a reason, and I'm hoping that you guys take that into consideration. The last thing that I will say is there are houses at the base of the hill that are quoted as having city water because of those lines where the pressure is adequate, and they are taxed at that level. So it looks like on paper we are sitting in a development that is worth more than it is because all of those homes up there are considered that as well. So if you could please take that into consideration, because we don't have that city water. We're just considered, I guess, along with the houses down there that do. Does that make sense? I don't know how else to explain that part. But yeah, I'm just coming to you as somebody that we just need help as a family, as a mother, as a father or grandfather. I just really hope that you consider that when taking this project into account. I have more residents that would like to speak. They were just working and can't come until the 25th.
And do you have a petition for us, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's good, and we're gonna have you on the agenda so that you have additional people come. And the last meeting of this month starts at 5:30. And we'll have a specific time, that way you all will know exactly what time to be here. We will, in the meantime, turn this over to our county manager,
Okay,
and we'll look at the possibility of putting you all in a feasibility study
okay,
so that we can determine what the cost of the project would be and see if it qualifies for federal grants. And if not, at least we'll know what the cost would be, and then we can continue to work with West Virginia American Water and see if there's something that we can do. No guarantees, but we at least can start the process.
right. I'm just okay with any kind of forward momentum, just to have an idea of what we can do. So I appreciate any time spent on this.
Do either of the commissioners have any questions?
No, I was able to review the information. I think that's what we need to know, is need to know, the cost to get it to these homes, how many homes are there. We unfortunately still have many places throughout the county that still don't have water, but we need to understand what it takes to get water to those areas, and then that helps us be able to make a decision on in what ways that the county can help, or what grants are available that we can try to pursue.
Okay, and like I said, we're willing to help pay. I understand that that's a great expense. It's just the amount that they're quoting us is just, it's not
Right.
feasible for working families.
Mr. Ellis? You have any questions?
I do not, thank you.
Okay, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
We'll see
Thank
you
you,
on the
Sarah.
25th.
Thank you.
Sarah, do you mind to write your phone number down for me, your contact information?
Yes, absolutely.
State settlements and fiduciary orders?
Yes. There's a series of orders there that just needs the president, authorization for the president to sign off on those.
Make a motion to approve estate settlements and fiduciary orders as presented and authorize the president to sign.
Second?
Have a motion, and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Budget revisions?
We do have one budget revision. Decrease part-time wages by $1,500 and increase full-time wages $1,500 to Department 705, home confinement.
Make a motion to approve the order as presented.
Second?
Have a motion, and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Orders and resolutions from the staff?
Yes, got orders. First order is to issue a check from the Water and Sewer Fund in the amount of $10,000 payable to Teradon Corporation for engineering services on the Jim Ridge Phase 2 Water Main Extension Project.
Make a motion to approve the order as presented.
Second?
Have a motion, and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Check from the Spay and Neuter Fund in the amount of $159 payable to Help for Animals.
Make a motion to approve the order as presented.
Second?
Have a motion, and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 $54,157.50 payable to the Putnam County General County Fund from the COVID-19 Fund, representing reimbursement of expenditures for COVID hazard and incentive pay expensed in February 2021.
Make a motion to approve the order as presented.
Second?
Have a motion, and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Issue a check from the COVID-19 Fund in the amount of $12,825 payable to the Putnam County Fire Service Board for reimbursement of fireman hazard and incentive pay.
Make a motion to approve the order as presented.
Second?
Have a motion, and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Issue a check from the COVID-19 Fund in the amount of $142.92 payable to Tudor's Biscuit World for discounted meals provided to residents staying at the warming shelter during a widespread power outage in Putnam County.
Make a motion to approve the order as presented.
Second?
Have a motion, and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Check from the COVID-19 Fund in the amount of $216 payable to Gino's Pizza for discounted meals provided to residents staying at the warming shelter during the widespread power outage.
Make a motion to approve the order as presented.
Second?
Have a motion, and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Issue a check from the Manila Ridge Water Fund in the amount of $357.25 payable to the Water and Sewer Fund And I have a follow-up order to that to close the Manila Ridge Water Fund. But this is to transfer the balance from that account over to the Water and Sewer Fund.
Make a motion to approve the order as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Order the clerk to close Manila Ridge Fund 046 once all checks have cleared, as the Manila Ridge Waterline Extension Project has been completed.
Make a motion to approve the order as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 And the last order is to issue a check from the COVID-19 fund in the amount of $1,200,000 payable to the Putnam County Building Fund that will go towards the Putnam County Sheriff's Facility Project.
Make a motion to approve the order as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 That's all the orders.
Any board appointments? Okay, none. Resolution naming March 15th as Margaret O'Neill Day.
Is anyone here, Marcy? Is anyone here with us? Okay. Whereas the Putnam County Commission recognizes the dedication and public service of Margaret O'Neill in her capacity as President of the United Way of Central West Virginia, and whereas Margaret O'Neill has been serving the United Way of West Virginia in some form since 1990, and whereas Margaret O'Neill spent nearly 10 years as Executive Director of the United Way of Southern West Virginia, and whereas Margaret O'Neill was named President of the United Way of Central West Virginia in August of 2017, and whereas the United Way of Central West Virginia serves the community through programs, funding, and partnerships to improve the quality of children's education and welfare, community health and safety, mental health, financial stability, disaster relief, job readiness, senior services, in addition to collaborations with local organizations to improve community wellness. And whereas under the leadership of Margaret O'Neill, the United Way of Central West Virginia has tirelessly worked to maintain reliable and high-quality services throughout the global coronavirus pandemic. And whereas Margaret O'Neill has established partnerships and collaborations with local service providers and business leaders to strengthen our community and address the needs of struggling West Virginians. And therefore, be it resolved, Putnam County hereby celebrates Margaret O'Neill as a leader in the community who has committed herself to providing unmatched care of Central West Virginia. Further, the Putnam County Commission names the 15th day of March as Margaret O'Neill Day to celebrate her, to honor her contributions to the community, and to recommit ourselves to public service.
Okay, next on the agenda is a decision to award ambulance bid opening from February 25th, 2021 to the lowest bidder that meets bid specification, John Darnell.
Morning.
Morning.
We got, as you're aware, we had two bids, one from Atlantic Emergency Solutions for $91,000, one from Northwest Emergency Vehicles for $93,968. After reviewing the bids and contacting the vendors, we had a 90-day delivery time of once awarding of the bid and the bid specs. Atlantic Emergency Solutions does not have a chassis available. It'll take them 14 weeks to get one delivered. Once delivered, 120 days for us to receive the ambulance once it's built. Northwest Emergency Vehicles has a chassis in stock on site, and they can meet the 90-day requirement. Any questions on that, or?
I make a motion that we award the bid that can meet the bid specifications as presented. What was the company name?
Northwest Emergency Vehicles.
Northwest Emergency Vehicles.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Budget hearing, Putnam County Parks and Rec, Ashley Deal, Justin Williams.
You may have another public comment before.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't know that he knew.
I'll get you right back. I didn't call again. I didn't see your hand. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We're here for the Lake Chidassa over there. I don't know if y'all are familiar with it. The drainage on it has failed. I have pictures here. It goes back under and goes
cross under 34 and back over through there. Anyhow, there's 4 other lakes that go into it,
Right.
plus all the watershed from the housing development over. And it's
This
in
is
real-
behind the Papa John's?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And it, like I said, it has failed. I have pictures here where the water has gone in around the box that's there. Plus, one of our neighbors crawled back in there and took pictures of the pipe. And water it's just eaten up and it's gonna cave in. And when it does, my house, his house, and a bunch of other houses are gonna be underwater.
Is this is the culvert underneath the road of 34?
Yes, sir. Actually, it starts at the lake and goes back under, right beside the, where Belly Scrubs is.
Yep.
Okay, and it goes all the way through there, back on the other side, and goes back, out. I think it comes out over in, over at the creek over there, where it comes out.
By the City National Bank?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, over there. And this last, and for the last 4 years in the summertime, it has slowly leaked, and we've almost lost the lake every year for about the last 4. And it's gonna be a health problem. There's fish in there. It's a pretty good sized lake.
Have you had any communication with DOH about the culvert or Department of Highways?
Last year, I called, and 2 guys from down here at Hurricane came up and just looked at it and said, they didn't go back in or look at it or anything like that. They just stood up here and said, well, that's not ours. And at any rate, if we have another good rain like we had here lately, I'm afraid it's going to cave in. When it does, it's going to be really serious. And
Can we see the pictures?
yes, sir.
Mhm. This is your overflow structure? Right. Okay.
This picture is underneath the road. Culvert?
From the pond side or the lake
lake
side.
side.
Yeah, crawl in from here. You took the framing grate off and went down in there, right? So when you crawl down in it, is there a 90-degree bend that's made out of the metal pipe? Because the pipe's eaten out of the bottom. Say that again? Uh-huh. Yeah, the pipe goes down, there's some kind of metal plate or concrete base. Then the, okay, understand that. Mhm. Yeah, Jeremy, there was Melissa Sargent had written us given us some background on that. And I think I forwarded that on to you. So sometime this week, get with me and we'll look at details of that and who is actually responsible for the maintenance of it, whether it's the county or somebody else, I'm not sure. But there was an agreement that was signed sometime a number of years back when this project was put in. And so we'll just have to go from there and see if there's something we can do to help. I know, Roy. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, we have a copy of the original agreement, so,
Planning does.
excuse me?
Planning does.
Yeah, I think she attached that to what she sent to me, that, I believe I forwarded that along to you, but, take a look at that, and let's get together later in the week, and we'll see if there's something we'll at least get the proper information and get a starting point for you. And then leave your name and information with Jeremy there.
And I'll call our district manager with DOT and make sure that he's aware and get a proper inspection of the culverts going underneath the road.
How far is the outlet structure from the state highway road? The distance from the outlet structure on the lake to the state highway? Yeah. Okay. Okay, Fred. All right, we'll take a look at it and see we'll pull the original document, see what the agreements were, and then we'll have Jeremy will get back in contact with you all, and then we'll move from that point. Watch your step when you get down there, guys. I'm not sure about it.
Not supposed to last forever.
Take a look at it.
Okay,
Thank you.
we will review that, and then we'll get back to you, hopefully later this week, with at least a starting point. Okay, Putnam County Parks and Rec.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
So we have put together a little presentation of what we have done this past year at the park, what we have coming up for this upcoming season. The first is just a cover letter, just an overview of what we're going to talk about today. Of course, with COVID-19 in the past year, it was very hard for us to do programming as usual, but I feel that we rose to the challenge and we were able to offer several events safely to the community and fundraising as well. If you go to the next page, I've put a calendar of our events we have planned. We always add little events, but these are our main events. And then we also have a calendar of events for the pool. So we're very excited for the possibility of opening this year for the Waves of Fun. We think that that's going to go well. We have all kinds of programming planned for the pool. In the past, we had some events, but we feel a need for the pool is to drive more of that attendance through the week. So we have weekly programming every day. We're going to have a senior appreciation day offering food specials and some, fitness for seniors and different activities. We're going to have poolside fitness for the community, Zumba, different things like that. We're going to be doing our own concessions this year, snow cones, so that'll drive some revenue for the pool. And we're going to be offering on Thursdays, we're going to have a kids club called Guppy Squad. One complaint that we get is that the wave pool isn't very safe for small children. So the first hour, we're not going to have waves. And then we're going to do like a craft and story time. We're partnering with the library. So we think that that's going to be a good offering. And then we're going to have different theme days, events on Fridays. We have a Christmas in July event planned and just fun things that will encourage people to come out to the pool. And then we have a movie night, and we've done that in the past, and that was really successful. For the park events, we have our core events that we usually do. Last year, we couldn't do our night market event that was really popular in 2019, and we did the movie night instead. This year, we're combining those two events. We're going to have live music outside, plenty of room for people to space out, and then when it gets dark, we'll show the movie as well. And we have vendors for that, so it's a good fundraiser. The funding for the event, and we do fundraising through the vendor fees. Businesses sponsor. We already have sponsorships secured for that because it was very successful in 2019. So businesses were excited to sponsor that, and then the event itself is free for the community to come to. We're also planning on still doing our Halloween event. We're having a fishing derby in April, Art in the Park series, and we're going to be offering a STEM camp for kids. We have a little rec card in here. This is our, if you take it out here, this is our Parks Our Community campaign. So the purpose of this is to encourage people to support the park and then tell people all the different ways that they can support the park rather than, just giving money. People can volunteer to help with events and projects. They can donate sponsorships from businesses and organizations. And then we, like to tell people about just participating in our events helps because that helps us with fundraising as well. Okay, so the next page is here. So we did a small economic impact study for the park based off of numbers that we know, like people that come to our baseball tournaments, weddings, conferences, and ways that we drive non-residents to the county and the kind of impact that that makes on our restaurants, hotels, shopping. So our baseball tournaments this year, we're very excited to say that we have 32 tournaments on the schedule. So that's going to be a huge impact for our park and also our community. So we calculated how many people come to each tournament. This is based off of 75% of attendees coming from out of county, out of state. So dining, gas and retail, and the staying in the hotels, that's going to have an estimated of $4.6 million economic impact on our county. And then the same with weddings and conferences. We have the calculations there. That's a $328 economic impact. We usually see a little bit more weddings and conferences than 25. So that's a conservative number, but because indoor events are a little bit down this year, our baseball is more than going to make up for it, but it's a realistic number of what we expect for this year on the conference center. And then at the end here, so we've calculated annual community utilization statistics of the park, how many visits we see at the park. So we calculated that we see approximately 150,000 visits to the park every year. And that's for everything that we offer. We see about 27,000 people come out to the pool, 10,000 to the conference center, all of our sports practices, 56,000. We have an organization, a soccer organization that books year-round, and they have kids coming from Beckley and further out. So we have constant traffic for that. We have our farmers market, trails, playground, etc. And then, so in efforts to fundraise this year, we have put together a Valley Park sponsorship program with our fundraising committee. So it's called Make an Impact in Your Community. And so we have a tiered system where businesses or individuals could give quarterly gifts. And that would include, getting a sign on the baseball fields and the soccer fields and at the pool and that sort of thing. So this kind of condenses things and makes it easier. If somebody's wanting to help out the park, they can pledge quarterly and help support our events and things like that. And then it explains it on the next page. The next thing is just an overview of our sign sponsorships, if you just wanted to buy a sign on our fields. And then this is a fundraiser for the pool that we're running right now. Our compressor is currently down at the pool, so we're going to have to purchase a new compressor, which we've already ordered. But this is businesses and also individuals, so we're promoting that if you go ahead and buy your season pass for the Waves of Fun, you can help us towards that goal, and then we're selling fence signs as well. Ready?
All right, so the actual budgeting portion here, our plans for the future. We have approximately $73,000 of debt we're paying out every year from the refurbishing of the sign, or the slides, and the Commons building, and another line of credit that was taken out when the park opened in 2018. So goals for that will be try to pay that down somewhat, try to eliminate those. By doing so, like the Commons, where we have a large loan on that, we have taken that area and made it into a nice little shop. We have 36 local artisans displayed and selling their goods there. We also have SoCa Kids Clubhouse. They do art and music classes, and there's also a bakery there. So that's helping offset, what we're paying out in loan there. We also need to save money for future expenses. The life expectancy of the fields, they said somewhere between 8 and low teen years, so average maybe 10-year life expectancy, and we're on approximately year 4 of field usage. I spoke to the people that did the turf, and they said you can probably get away with just replacing the hard worn areas like around the base paths and things like that. So we're estimating probably, $45,000 or maybe even a little higher per field to replace that infield area. So we need to start saving money for that because they do have a life expectancy. And other things we're trying to do with the budget, we're trying to build staffing to increase programming and fundraising efforts and revenue. If you notice on our budget, a whole lot, we're not asking for a whole lot more. I think we're asking for $10,000 more in the big term of things there. But we're switching around hourly to salary employees. We had 2 salaried employees last year. Now we're using that for seasonal staffing, which will save us some money on that end and help us increase the actual number of bodies we have at the park to help us work on things. Also on the budget, we have slightly less estimated on the conference center bookings this year because most of our bookings were weddings, and most people book a wedding like a year out for planning purposes, and there's just not a whole lot of people, booking weddings at this point. We'll probably fill in some of our dates, and it may be a conservative estimate what we have on there, but our main increase is the baseball fields. I think we had 5 total tournaments last year, and we'd estimated somewhere around 20, but we have 32, and we feel all those are going to happen. And we're planning on increasing revenue through the concession stands and actually opening up the concession stand through the week where we have, multiple field rentals in the evening.
So we've listed the total of our proposed funding at the end of our letter, and then, of course, it's on our budget. Are there any questions?
I do have one question about your hotel motel tax. Where did you come up with the $91,000? That's a big drop.
So it's based on what we've gotten in the past year. Well, we increased it a little bit over the past year because it has been down because we haven't had as many people staying in the hotels.
And Jeremy, how has are we far enough along to know where we're going to be on hotel motel tax this year or this quarter?
Not this quarter. We won't know that until April. But normally this is a slow period anyway, January, February, March, although with the power outages, I would expect that that's going to be higher than what it normally is. I know Parks, I've got the spreadsheet pulled up here. Their actual over the last 4 quarters received was 76,000. Of course, that's based on a COVID year. But normally it's been as high as about 127 on a normal. So hopefully we'll come out of COVID quickly and that'll bounce back.
So on an annual basis, for say 2019 before COVID versus during COVID, what's the difference?
The 4 quarters prior to that was $108,550.
That's per quarter,
No, that's for the year.
for the year.
Yeah, last year we had estimated it to be increasing, because I think, what'd you say, 108 is what we had, so we estimated it to be increasing last year. That was all pre-COVID estimations. So we kind of dropped it, several $1,000s, just as precautionary of what could occur here this summer. I don't think we're gonna get to full capacity until probably late fall. That's what I'm hearing, so.
On your current debts, I know the slide refurbing and the commons, those are long-term fixed debt, is that correct?
Yeah.
What other, you have a line of credit?
There was a line of
operating?
credit taken out in 2018 when the park opened.
I think
to the tune of about
that-
$75,000.
Yeah, I think that was the re-roofing the commons and some other factors went into that. So what's that balance roughly?
I think it was down to, I think it's around 60 right now,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken.
Are y'all developing a new website this year?
Yes, so we're developing a new website, but we also have a brand-new booking system. So this will help us with our staffing as well, so everybody can book their fields and shelters, everything that has a set price, online, without having to speak to somebody unless they have a specific question. And then that just leaves like the more specific, conversations, like the conference center requires for and things like that, but that'll help our operation a lot. And it also has the ability to, people can go all in one place to buy tickets for our events and different things like that, sign up for camps. And then we can put fundraisers on there. We can put volunteer calls on our new website so people will sign up that way. And then kind of a neat function, it's small, but something that'll be neat for this pool season is it offers for people to create accounts. And we have a lot of like parents that drop their teenagers off at the pool. Maybe they'll send their kids with babysitters to the pool. And you can have an account where you can buy your pool ticket, you can spend at the concession stand, all under the parent's account without having to send money with your kid.
It also has a way of tracking analytics too. So if we always get a complaint that people don't know about events. Like, well, we post it on Facebook, we try to go to the news and as much as we can, and then it's up to them to get it out. And we do advertise some, but this has a way that if people sign up, they can be on an email blast list where we can email them, let them know what's going on, and text message updates and get the word out about things a little bit easier too.
Is your fundraising committee up and operating?
Yes, yep.
Who's the chairman of that committee?
I think Dave Holtzapfel was the one that decided to be the head of that. But
Jeremy, could we get Dave to come over for a meeting? Put him on the agenda. I want him to talk to us about what they're doing along. Are y'all having trouble raising funds during COVID?
The numbers were down because we had even one person put a sign up and then asked that we remove it and refund his money and put it up again the following year because there wasn't enough people going to the park, he said. So yeah, we have had some challenges there, but for the events and things like that, we do have a pretty good amount of people that have actually reached out to us, like City National Bank and a couple others that we're sponsors the previous year, and they're like, "Hey, you guys doing that again this year?" And we're like, "Yeah," and they said, "Okay, we've got your money for you." So we have a good relationship with several businesses that, you know, are ready to come back on this year once we get everything going.
Okay, so how do y'all differentiate between just fundraising for the parks and then the Friends of the Parks? Is that two different entities, or
It
are you
is.
raising the funds through the Friends of the Park?
We run it all through there, but the Friends of the Park is more towards non-specific donations. We have the grant that goes in there, and there's been a couple of large donors in the past.
Are the Friends of the Park funds included in your budget?
Yeah, it's a line item in
Yeah,
there,
okay.
but also, so we differentiate, things only go into the Friends of Park account if somebody gives a gift or, you know, a donation specifically for certain projects, because it's park improvement projects. Fundraising, it just goes into our general budget.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Putnam County Health Department, Lita Kirk.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. You'll find in there more or less not the budget for the health department this year, but for our first half of the year. Normally, I work with the Board of Health in February, March to kind of prepare the budget. I'm not going to lie, COVID has kind of taken possession of the health department this year. Our budget's kind of been delayed a little bit in getting financials and everything together, but should be back on target in April and have an operational budget to the board by then. We're just running a little behind. COVID is 24/7 at the health department, as you can imagine, the past year. We're also under, as you can tell, on our revenue. Clinical revenue is down. Our grant budget billing is a little behind also. A lot of the increased expenses we've experienced this year will be covered by grant, actually 2 grants from DHHR. So we anticipate by the end of the fourth quarter to have billed, received those monies, and be about where we were last year. So a lot of it will be covered. A lot of the health departments are experiencing delays in getting their billing done, and DHHR has been very good to work with to allow us extra time on our billings, because they know we're busy with clinics and cases and all the things that go into COVID. We are actually talking about post-COVID a little bit at the health department. The nurses are talking about, we always in the summer run back-to-school clinics for children going to school the following fall, getting them ready with their immunizations. The sanitarians are actually doing in-services on special events like fairs and festival events. So they're doing some in-services this week on getting ready for what we hope to be a fair and festival season once again. So it's kind of nice to hear the staff talk about something other than COVID. So we're hoping by the time spring rolls around, we'll be seeing a little bit of business as usual and less cases and a good, solid immunized public. To date, if you look at the state statistics, 13,000 vaccinations in Putnam County. We've done at the health department almost half of that. So and 80% of the vaccinations we've given have all been within the last 30 days. So the last 30 days, as you can imagine, have been something of an activity. Anybody who's been to one of our clinics can tell you, 1,000 people typically in a clinic. This weekend, we broke our records with 1,669 shots given. So something of a record. You can look and see we are gradually creeping up in the numbers of the percent of the population vaccinated, which is a good sign. And our cases are going down, which is an even better sign. And if you didn't see, yesterday CDC issued some new guidance on mask mandates, on if you're fully vaccinated, what you can do now without a mask safely. So that was kind of a nice change. Can I answer any questions for anyone?
Well, I want to personally thank you all for your efforts. I have all good comments about people that go through this system.
Yeah.
So y'all done a good job.
It takes a whole community. You know, I have had people volunteer from everywhere. You know, the park system who's just here has been very gracious in space. The Board of Education, next week this coming Saturday, we're at the National Guard Armory in Eleanor. Volunteers from everywhere. The librarians are actually assisting us making appointment calls. So I have had everybody, emergency management, EMS. CMC has been a huge, you know, you come into the room and you see the blue vest of CAMC. They're a large presence at our clinics, and family care has been there with us every week during these clinics. So it's been a community effort, and it's a very gratifying effort. People, even though you're on your feet 8 hours a day, I think I counted my steps at 8 miles this weekend in the building. And people are happy to come and do that. They feel it's a rewarding job.
Any questions?
Just to confirm, the request of the county commission is the same as it
Yes,
has been,
same as last
50,000?
year. I believe once we're past COVID, we'll be able to reestablish, I think our clinical programs will actually be stronger. I think we have more of a name in the community, more of a presence in the community. We're better known this year probably than we have been in a long time. People know who their health department is now. So I think it's going to help us going forward with a lot of our programs.
I will say that, you know, as we started out with regional vaccination centers, I personally felt that Putnam County was left out because we weren't given the vaccine to take care of our people.
Yep.
Once that was able to change, Lita and her team of employees and volunteers have definitely stepped up to, as our governor says, get shots in the arms. And
Yeah.
I know the last month has been crazy, but I appreciate everything you and your team has done
Thank you.
to keep the people safe.
Yeah, I'll be honest, you know, most of the staff are putting in 6 days a week, and not a complaint among them. You know, they're staying late in the evenings to get those calls done. They're coming in the morning, hitting the phones. It's a task, and I know the phones are not always answered as quickly as the public would like, but we have a body sitting at every desk all day long, either answering or making calls. And it's a task all the health departments are experiencing right now. There's not enough of us to go around, but we're doing what we can.
I concur. Everything I've heard has been positive about them.
I will say, we were very busy Saturday. I always clock a few patients every day just to see what our throughput is. So I make sure we're maintaining good flow. Probably at the longest was 45 minutes. Most people were in and out in a half hour. So that's something to be proud of. That's a good way to go with things. I'm always available to the health department if you have any questions. Most everybody has my cell phone, I think, by now. Call me. I'm available. Well, I'm off to pick up vaccine.
Thank you, Lita.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Mark Sorcea, prosecuting attorney.
Do we need to limit his time?
I slipped on the ice at Speedway and I screwed up my boat. They asked me if I wanted to fill out a form, and I said, I'm not that kind of guy that suits people. I got my shot Saturday at Hurricane High School, and I tell you, I've never saw a more organized event with so many people. The health department, they just did a magnificent job. And so my anxiety level went down a little bit. I'll get my second shot. Regarding my budget, one thing I'm kind of proud of is my budget outside of salary increases has pretty much flatlined for the last 4 or 5 years. The only thing we've done this year that we added, we asked for another $1,000, I believe, in the travel line item. travel. The travel line item is mainly, the bulk of that goes to bringing in expert witnesses from out of state. The criminal justice system has evolved to the point with forensic science that oftentimes we have to bring in experts, and we have to bring in experts from out of state. They're not cheap. We have to pay usually a fee, would be coming out of professional services, and then oftentimes we have to pay for their travel. So one thing I want to ask Jeremy, I was looking, actually the bottom line number is about $7,000 less than last year, and I noticed the increment, what is it called?
8.9?
No.
Yeah, we don't budget for increment. I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, increment was 6,000, so that's not in the budget, then we don't have to, that's not a mistake on our part, right?
Yeah, that decision
Okay,
will be
fine.
made at the end of the fiscal
So
year.
anyway, depending on what you do with increment, if it's another 6,000 this year, it's basically the same amount that I got last year. The one thing that I asked for, that I have been historically asking for, is salary increases. I have one attorney in the office right now. It's Jennifer's making $85,000 a year, and I have been trying to work to get the other lawyers up to that amount because there's disparity in pay. Jennifer's making 85, Kevin Lawson's making 80, Elizabeth's making 80. Chris Raines is making 81,950. I'm trying to get them all up to that 85 level so they're at the same level that Jennifer is. The attorneys in the office all have multiple years of experience. I don't have any rookies in the office. They're very experienced attorneys, and I'm trying to get that salary up to match Jennifer's. You guys have helped me in the last couple years. You've given me a little bit at a time, and we have made progress in getting that up. This year, I'm asking that Kevin Lawson and Elizabeth Sungyal get a $4,600 increase, and Chris Raines gets a $3,100 increase. That would get them up to the level that Jennifer's making. I'm also asking for a 5% increase across the board for my staff. I know what pay raises are like, but I'm asking. I've been, like any county official, there's times that my staff does things that kind of irritate me, and that's just life. But I can tell you, as a county prosecutor, I don't know of any office in this state that has a quality staff and attorneys that I do. And so I'm doing my best to keep them.
Mark, I do have one question, and I don't know the answer to this. This is why I'm asking. But with the attorneys, with your prosecuting attorneys, trying to get them on the same level, do they do the same duties? I mean, is that typical throughout the state?
They do. They basically, across the board, they have the same qualifications, the same talents. They have, years of experience. None of them are rookies.
Okay.
Some of them 12, 15 years experience. My problem is I have to compete, and, Kanawha County, their salaries are significantly higher. Actually, the first assistant in Kanawha County makes more than the elected. And then the State House lawyers make a lot more money. And Attorney General's office, Supreme Court lawyers. So, it's just, due to the fact that my lawyers are pretty much have the same qualifications and the same skills, I mean, one may have special skills that the other ones don't have, but the other ones have different, you know, their own skills. So it's basically, you know, it's just a little bit of an issue in the office that they're all not making the same amount of money. So that's why I'm trying to get that up. And you all have helped me because the last couple of years we've been nudging it up. So if we could take another step in that direction, I would appreciate it. In the last couple of weeks, we had a tragedy. We lost Judge Jim Holliday. Judge Holliday was in his 90s. He passed away. I tried my first jury trial in this courtroom in 1984 in front of Jim Holliday. I think I only got in trouble one time and got chewed out about it. I deserved it. I think it was a lawsuit over a motorcycle, actually. And it was my first jury trial in this courtroom. Jim Holliday, historically in the legal community in this county, is somewhat of a legend. He was he was the prosecutor years ago, and then he ran and he got on the bench. He served several terms as a judge in this county. He's tried a lot of cases in this courtroom. He retired, I believe, before we went to the new judicial building. He is the man that I would say, I've been practicing law since 1984. He is the man that I would say that I have the highest respect for in our profession. And he is a man that I think I could say had the largest influence on my professional life. I would not be the prosecuting attorney I am today if it wasn't for Judge Jim Holliday. And I think, you know, if Hobby Spalding was alive, Hobby would say the same thing, because Hobby was prosecutor and then became a judge. And I think Judge Spalding's philosophy on being a judge was based a lot on Jim Holliday. Jim Holliday was a quiet, intellectual man. He followed the rules. He never let any kind of personal interest or political motivations or his personal beliefs interfere in his decisions as a judge. He was everything that a judge should be. I can tell Commissioner Foster that he was a Republican from Logan County. I don't know if that affects anything. Not that I'm talking about politics, but he was a Korean War veteran, a decorated Korean War veteran. And after he retired, I would often go to his farm on Hurricane Creek and sit on the porch and talk to him. And he was just a great man. I would like to suggest to the commission, I could talk to Larry Fry and Jeremy about this at some point. Maybe there's some way that we could honor him. And he's truly, you know, he's truly always, even after his retirement, he's truly always involved and active in the judicial system in Putnam County. I think he participated in the building of the new judicial building. So he's always in his heart been dedicated to our county and to the criminal justice and the justice system in Putnam County. One idea I have, over the years, what we've done is we've brought interns in from law schools, and I've given them internships in the prosecutor's office. That's usually paid out of the part-time salary and wages category. One way we could honor Judge Holliday is I might establish a Jim Holliday internship program and send that to WVU. And if there's a law student at WVU from down here that would want to do an internship in the prosecutor's office or somewhere in the court system, maybe we can pay them a stipend to do that. We'll call it the Jim Holliday Legal Internship. I know Jim Holliday. Jim Holliday right now would probably get mad at me for bringing this up. He is not the kind of guy that wants a plaque or wants a building named after him. He's just not that kind of guy. But I think he would like the idea of an internship and maybe getting a law student down here and giving them some experience. So You know, if it's not foreseeable that that could be funded, I'm sure I can find it in my budget somewhere to do that. Any questions?
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
I would like to thank the sheriff. I think we have a great sheriff. We have a very, very capable, knowledgeable sheriff, and I'm very happy that he's there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brian Wood, County Clerk.
Take his stinking mask off. All right. Jim, I have for you a couple budgets. I got 402, 413, and 460. We'll start with 402. I'm proud to say that I'm coming in this year's budget at $19,399 under budget. But to be fair, a lot of that's due to the increment pay not being put in there, as well as capital outlays. You all were kind enough to give me some money to buy some computers for the record room, and so that does show as well. So basically, my budget is pretty much flatlined on the 402. The one thing a couple things I'd want to point out is that I have a person that had retired. I do plan on filling that position. We are in the middle of getting a new statewide voter registration system, and I don't want to bring the new person in and teach them an old system and turn around and teach them a new system. So I'm kind of holding off and trying to go through part-timers to get the work done. And then once we get that statewide voter registration system, then I'll look into finding the right person for that position to fill that spot. At the end, we've always worked good together. You always provide me everything I need to do my job. Probably the only time we ever, and I don't even know if it was hard feelings or anything like that, but probably the only time we ever butt heads is over employees and pay, and that's because your job is to count the beans, and my job is to protect my family, my work family, and so never do I ever mean to be disrespectful in any way towards you all, but I do love my work family and want to provide them with everything I can. I feel it's my duty to do that. I have put in here, and I won't go through it all, but I'd asked for a 2.5%. What I don't want to have happen is I ask for a 2.5%, and then the prosecutor asks for a 5%, and then I get told, well, you only asked for 2.5, and they get 5. So 2.5 or greater is what I would like to have for my employees if possible. so that way, just to make that clear. And I had to put a little bit of a differential in there for Lisa, Jill, and Victoria. All three have worked hard through this COVID process and tracking different numbers and different things like that, and trying to, they're probably doing, the job of, if you go to a different county, there'll be 4 people in place of the 2 people. So with that said, I'll ask if you have any questions. All right. And like I say, I'd be grateful for any consideration when it comes to raises for the employees. My biggest fear, or one of my biggest fears, gas prices already have jumped $1. They got to get here. Clothing and everything else is going up. They're talking about minimum wage increasing $15 an hour, which will just kill us. It's not a matter of, I don't know that it's even a raise, it's just trying to keep up with life. And so anything you can do to help them, we certainly appreciate. 413, proud to say we're 46,360 under the budget from last year. And a lot of that's due to, we were very successful in getting grant funds for paying off election equipment and things like that. So you won't see that that big number in the capital outlay item. However, I did put 40,000 in there for buying power with the national level, and it's not a whole lot of buying power, but with the national level, all that went on with the elections, although West Virginia was out of the conversation because we did such a good job with our elections, I do foresee probably Washington sending down some more grant money for election equipment and different things like that. So I want to have a little bit in the jar for buying power to compound it, because typically they're a 50% grant fund or they're at 85%. So if I have 40,000, then that gives me some buying power on those grants there. The big ones that have raised is going to be your postage, and the reason for that is I don't know what's going to happen with absentees. In the primary, we mailed out applications, and then we had all the cost of mailing out the ballots and so forth. In the general, we didn't mail out applications, we just mailed out ballots. We will have redistricting, that we'll probably have a bunch of mailings to go out as well. And then we have national change of address, NCOA, which is at the end of the year, this year, which basically it's the DMV versus the voter registration. Do those addresses match? No, they don't. Let's send them a card and see which is right, or if they're still around or available. If they're not, then they're put in the inactive list, and then we got to wait 2 federal elections to try to drop them off the voter rolls. So that's where that increase in the postage. It may be more than I need. It may be less than I need. It's just too hard to guess. So I try to put a good medium number in there to try to satisfy all 3 of those situations. Other than that, I don't think much has changed. You have any questions for the 413 budget? All right. And then the 460 budget basically is just it's a rollover budget. It's fees that are collected from our office due to certain things being recorded. And every year we guesstimate the amount that we'll have, and it kind of just lays there as a cushion for should we ever need new software and different things like that. But so the estimated amount will be, last year we budgeted $48,871. This year we need to budget $57,987. And that's for 460. Any questions on that? No? All right. Well, easy. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Brian.
William J.J. Mullins, Circuit Clerk.
Good morning, gentlemen. We're not asking for a budget increase. We've got a couple line items maybe that we want to increase. Actually, I think the budget we're presenting now is less than the budget we had last year. We do have some projects going on in the clerk's office, and that's what Mrs. Smith is going to explain to you, how that's going and what we have over there, okay?
Well, first I wanted to actually start off with giving you guys an update on how our e-file initiative is going that we launched last February. We were in a unique situation because shortly after we launched, COVID hit. And luckily we were able to work from home, and we had half staff in the office and half staff working from home. So the issues that we did have going into Court Plus, as in not having attorneys or other parties added into the case. We were able to have our staff work on those while we were working split shifts. So that was fortunate. However, it has added a tremendous amount of work onto the circuit clerk staff. We are dealing with attorneys a lot more than we were in the past, simply because the education to use the Court Plus system and the e-file system, which is the side that the attorneys work on, is quite confusing, and the training just wasn't fully there and available to our attorneys and their staff. So we're constantly fielding through calls way more than we were in the past about how to file a motion or how to file a new case or how to even be able to have access into a case. On that note, we no longer have Circuit Express, which was a subscription service that the attorneys and their staff had that would allow them to look up a case and get a document from that case without having to, for lack of a better term, bother our office. They could get that themselves through that subscription. That's no longer available. So whenever an attorney gets appointed into a case as a guardian ad litem, for example, they'll need an entire case file. And it may be multiple case files depending on what their situation is. So we're having to make copies of 4, 5, 6 cases at a time for one attorney, where before they could get it on their own. So it's added a lot more stress and a lot more work on our deputy clerks. There's been a lot of them in particular departments that have had to work a tremendous amount of overtime to meet these requests from these attorneys because we simply can't do it during regular work hours. It's too vast. But we are getting better at it, hopefully as COVID gives us a little bit more relief and things get better. There'll be more training available. I'm hoping that with the annual Circuit Clerks Conference coming up in May, that there will be a little bit more education as far as how to do certain things and a little more clarification. They do come out with monthly updates for Court Plus that can help us. I tend to be the squeaky wheel, and sometimes I get the grease with the Supreme Court whenever we have issues. I do like to let them know so that we can work on all of this together. And as the initiative goes farther and more counties are launched, it can be simpler on them from our difficulties. But as far as the projects that Mr. Mullins was speaking about, we are working diligently on our retention. Now that we do not have paper files, and we won't be acquiring any more paper files, we are trying to organize our storage the best that we can. Right now, the basement rooms that we do have are in shambles, to put it nicely. Nothing really was organized properly. There are criminal files and with civil files and with divorce files. And sometimes it makes it difficult. If you do not know exactly where something is and you're not familiar with how the basement is currently, you would never know it. Before we had a lot of turnaround with employees, and it was very difficult to explain to them where certain items were that they would need for their everyday work. We feel as though that we're going to have the space to finish this project, but I've been working with Joe Geiger from Archives and History, and he has agreed to come down sometime whenever his schedule kind of clears up a little bit and assist me and Mr. Mullins in working through these files and picking which ones can be destroyed per the retention schedule that's set forth, by Archives and History, as well as digitization. We applied for a grant. Mr. Hannah helped me with that. We did get denied. However, Mr. Geiger did have a conversation with me actually a couple of weeks ago and further explained why we were denied. And it was simply because of the time frame that we were wanting to digitize was outside of the retention schedule. So we could actually get rid of those 20 years of files that we were going to digitize. So we're going to apply next year, or the next grant writing session, to do the proper years. Once we do that, there will be a tremendous amount of room downstairs for if we get another mass litigation case, which we have to keep the jury records and all of the financial records and all of that kind of stuff for. There are 3 mass litigation cases that were in the past that we still have to maintain because they're still open, that we're having a little bit of difficulty finding room for, because I think the last time that I counted, it was 293 boxes that are taking up valuable space that we need for the files that we have in our office. So we are working on that. In the next year, we will have to buy more shredders and supplies for those shredders. We're burning ours up with doing this retention and the destructions. Hopefully we can get all of that finished. There is one increase, and Mr. Mullins, I'm sure, will get to this whenever I give him the mic back. The association fees for the circuit clerks are increasing from $100 a year to $300 a year. In our virtual fall conference, it was voted on that an attorney needed to be hired for the association and kept kind of on a retainer because there are many times that although we cannot give legal advice in our office, there are times that our manual does not address issues that we work with on a daily basis that attorneys even have issues on. And that's statewide, it's not just Putnam County. So there is an increase from $100 to $300 a year. And they are hoping that in the future with this increase that it will give us the opportunity to get more training and education on the items that we're frequently asking the attorneys about.
Any questions?
Kind of, I'm just making sure I ask it in the right way. So the new system is causing, I guess, the attorneys to have to interact with the clerk's office more than it was even before.
Yes.
And there's nobody sees a problem with that? Nobody sees that there needs to be a remedy to that?
I have asked several times, and the Supreme Court Court Plus team, there's an attorney on the team and IT people and all of that kind of things. They have been working with different attorneys and different offices, even within the courthouse, to improve and further educate on these issues. But I'm not sure if it is simply that they did not attend the trainings or they don't refer to their training materials or what the situation is. But we're fielding through a lot of repetitive calls to assist these attorneys.
But the goal of the system was to, if I'm not mistaken, to streamline their access. And so these attorneys just aren't as well informed, I guess, as some other attorneys are able to not interact with you, get the information they need, and.
That's my assumption, yes.
Okay, so I wonder, are we allowed to charge a fee? Larry, you may know this more, for those services?
Like as far as the subscription service?
Or just the ones that aren't, taking the time to be trained properly, those attorneys, can we charge them a fee for the time that there's a system out there for them to use, they're choosing not to use it.
Well, part of it's the system's fault. I mean,
Yes.
quite frankly, they adopted a system, I don't remember what state it was in, but
Alabama, I believe, the civil court in Alabama.
it was a civil court program, and quite frankly, I have trouble with it sometimes.
Okay.
I've had to go over there, I can't get it to upload some of my documents, and I'll scan them in and it just won't upload them. Or you'll look for you have a specific category you've got to put it in. What's listed there is not what you're trying to do.
Okay. So it's still a bigger issue than.
It's a bigger
Okay,
issue with the
okay.
program itself.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
On that same line there, is there anything the county commission can do in the way of helping you all coordinate with whoever's, for lack of better terms, messed this system up to get the system corrected?
You know, that's a good question, and that is on my list to ask while we're at the conference, and the team is actually there in person. I don't know who did and who did not attend the attorney training whenever the initiative was getting ready to be launched here in Putnam County. But I think a continuing education, if we could maybe get something set up with that Court Plus team from the Supreme Court, just going more in depth on the updates that they're doing, or even simply, an open Q&A, or, something to that effect, that these attorneys' offices and their staff can come to, and we can explain it and actually show it to them as opposed to walking them through it. And, the big issue for our office is that there are two sides to e-file. There is the attorney side, which is called e-file, and then there's the Court Plus side, which is what we use in the circuit clerk's office, and that the prosecutor's office and the judge's offices have access to. Those two systems they do not look the same. So even if we were trying to explain to an attorney's office where to go and how to file it, their side does not look anything like ours. So that makes it difficult as well, that we don't have access to see what the attorneys do.
Okay, is there anything that we can do, and you can just think about this, anything that we could do from a legislative standpoint, us working with legislators to get this problem fixed? Because I see this as a dual issue. It's taking your time, but it's also the attorneys, it's taking their time, which means our residents are paying more money for attorney fees they shouldn't have to be paying. It's a big issue. It's not just a little issue, it's a really big issue. So I'd like to see if there's something we could do from, a legislative push per se, in order to get this corrected, so that it saves you all time, effort, and money, and our constituents as well.
And we also get into a time constraint issue, a time standard issue, because there are times that these attorneys are filing items, and, to no fault of anybody's, but with the system, like Mr. Fry said, what you're trying to file may not be an option that's laid out in the system. So they're filing documents incorrectly, and we have no other choice than to reject them. And, we'll either call the attorney's office, or usually they call us pretty quickly thereafter, the rejection. And we fall into a time standard issue because they may be court ordered to submit something at a certain time, and we can't, or they're not doing it, or they're missing that deadline because they don't know how to file it.
Yeah, at this point, I think I understand the problem. I'm looking for the solution, and
Right.
and if you could help us with that, then that.
Right,
We'll
unfortunately.
we'll help in any way we can, I'm sure.
Yes.
We just need to know where to go.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I've looked for that answer, and I've yet to get it. So maybe we can work together and try to find some sort of resolution.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I went through the training. I went through the training.
Bobby Eggleton?
You did?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just telling them, I went through the training for that program and still have difficulty working with the program.
Okay. Sounds like a program issue.
Yeah,
Sheriff Bobby Engel?
As you can see, the Court Plus e-filing was supposed to be a major jump to the future, but it hasn't helped.
Okay.
It hasn't lightened our load at all. The only thing it's done is on the paperwork. Now we don't have to create files and stuff them away in the basement like they have been for years. As a matter of fact, we have, just in the last few months, have shredded on the biggest shredder we've got, 23 years of files. Now, we're down to an amount now where we can contract somebody to come in and do it on a bi-weekly or a monthly thing, because every year, some of these files expire where they could be destroyed. Instead of just putting them on a shelf and leaving them there forever, you know. Of course, we have some that will have to be there forever, but, and those type files, we need to buy totes or something to keep the papers from rotting in them. Some of those files, you can get down there and you open it up, you touch it, and it just falls apart. Then we have an issue in the basement also. While moving some of these files out to be shredded or put in, organize them where they should be, we found mold. So there's mold in our basement over there. And so Ms. Smith, I had her to go ahead and buy respirators for whoever goes down there to move files around, and to be somewhat protected anyway. But like I said, we've just shredded 23 years of files, and all of them that we shred, we get permission from the Supreme Court in order to do that. You know, we're not going to shred anything that's not supposed to be. But we've about wore that one shredder out. I've done a lot of shredding myself. And right now, I've got like 50 bags of shredded paper sitting in the back of our office, waiting for an empty dumpster so we can start dumping some of it at a time, you know. But the dumpsters fill up so fast, we just don't have room to put it all in there. And we've already put 300 of them in there. It's a big deal. But we are freeing up some space. We're getting rid of stuff that we absolutely do not need. But back to our budget here on line 16 of the budget. I'll find it. Oh, it's M&R equipment. That's to maintain maintenance on the copiers and shredders we have. That's what that line item's for. So we have two shredders. We have a big shredder and then a smaller one. And we're using both of those shredders, getting rid of all these files. And so we need to maintain those. And line 21, training and education, that's for continued education and training and to that's the one we use for the file and that's the one we use for the to go to the seminar conference. Yeah. And also that's what we pay the conference fees out of too, which is set right now for the last week in May. And hopefully they'll have it. Last year it was canceled. And as Ms. Smith brought up here a while ago on line 22, that's the dues and subscriptions. It was our dues to the Clerks Association was increased to $300, so we're asking for $400 in that line item. And a jury hotline, services for it is on our call-out system, line item number 23 on professional services. So we can, it can be maintained. Who does that? Oh, Software Computer Group is the one that takes care of that for us. And the contracted services, we need to keep that line item. Like I said, we're down to where we can have a truck come in, because we got to get a certificate of destruction on these files when they're taken care of like that by somebody else. So we want them to bring a truck to us and shred them on site. And we're now, after 23 years of getting rid of 23 years of it, we're almost to that point now. On the capital outlay and equipment, we like I said, we may have to buy another big shredder, because I've got a feeling we're going to wear these two out we've got. I know the big one is, you know, you take a shredder and you put the paper in it and it'll just automatically feed. Well, ours don't. It quit doing that. So now you got to manually push your button on, you know, when you got to do something manually, that's a lot of work. But we did buy some tablets during this pandemic, so, but the tablets will assist any of the clerks that have to go to the judge's office, so they can take, just like taking their computer with them, because the judge is going to see something different than we do, and then they can explain to the judge what we have and give him what he needs, and also helps people out that come to the window, the public. We still have pro se comes to the window. That's basically all the paperwork that we have is from the pro se, and then that paperwork, each deputy clerk keeps that paperwork in a box under their desk for 30 days. And some of those boxes get a little bit full, then they shred that. So, you know, we're doing away with all that we can do away with. And it's with the e-file, like we thought, the way they presented it to us was going to be a big deal. Well, it's a big deal, but if they can get it straightened out, it just created a lot more work for the clerks, a lot more work. I think the other thing I have is, I'd just like to see these girls get across the board raise. You know, of course, I'd like to go with 100%, but I'll present 5 to you, you know, but they really work hard, a lot harder than what everybody thinks they do. And I think they deserve a raise of some sort. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Wallace.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I've known JJ for a long time. That's the most words I've ever heard a man say right there. Commissioner, thank you for having us. I passed out some stats for you there to look at, and I brought the blue crew here. We didn't mean to all wear blue today, but it kind of worked out that way, so now we're the blues crew. And I'll just tell you, these people right here in front of you, they done all this work. I've been here 2 months, and 9 days, and I'll tell you that I am so pleased with, especially these individuals in front of you. Those two chiefs right there have run this department for a long time. I'm just happen to be the guy that wears the #1 badge, but I really appreciate that. I can't do this alone, never expected to. So much more work than I ever expected, just being what I do, and they work harder than I do. Everybody in this county works hard. I heard Mark say a 5% and a 5% raise, and there's nobody in this county who doesn't deserve that. But we all understand that there are issues when it comes to money. I have put in mine, we have a 3.5% raise, which I thought was fair. Is it adequate? By no means. If, like Brian Wood said, if the things go to $15 an hour, then a lot of our people will be underpaid. $15 is what they're considering a living wage. Me being a good conservative guy I am, I'm totally against something like that, but I understand what a living wage is. These people here that work in my office, or the sheriff's office, they deal with $54 million collected so far. I'll go through some of the stuff, and we'll start off with the law enforcement. I didn't realize when I took office what a complex office the sheriff's department was. The different divisions, and I think I'm correct when I say that the sheriff's department is the biggest entity in county government, being, everything from the bailiffs to the deputies to the taxes. You're looking at approximately 70 people, and that's in Putnam County, which we're so blessed to be in a county, the second largest growing county in West Virginia, and we're very fortunate. I teach my friends in Kanawha County that every time somebody moves, they come to us. And thank goodness it's the working people that are coming to Putnam County and not the people that stay in Kanawha County. So we're very blessed with that. The law enforcement division is made up of 53 people, and it's led by Chief Eric Hazlett. And like I say, Eric does a great job. They've answered 15,709 calls for service. That's in a COVID period, when times were, Eric and I spoke before I ever got here about telling your guys not to put themselves into harm's way when you're talking about COVID. Traffic stops were cut down, things like that. So you didn't put your deputies, your road deputies, in harm's way about catching COVID. 308 arrests made during the time period by the Road Patrol, 1,959 written reports, 628 crashes, and I think 400 of them was in the last couple of weeks. This ice storm here, I heard deputies, between the ice storms and the floods, the road deputies, it was something else for them. I'm a pretty active sheriff. I go out there and try to assist whenever possible. And I see these ladies and gentlemen out there really working hard, pulling people out of ditches and things like that. Really above and beyond. It's what I expect, but I'm always proud of them when I see that. Mental hygiene, so we talked about the legislature. I have approached our legislators about, state law says that the county deputies have to serve mental hygienes. And people don't understand. I didn't understand, being a city officer for so many years, what it entailed. When a deputy serves mental hygiene and makes a mental hygiene arrest, they take that person until they are taken to the hospital. That can be 10 hours on a deputy. So that takes that deputy off the road. So we went to myself and a couple other sheriffs have went to the legislature to try to open that up to municipal officers to say, let everybody else serve these. There's no, if we're taking mental health serious, and that's what people want to do in today's world, then we have to say, okay, not just the county can take this responsibility. Cities can do it. Hopefully that will free some deputies up. I'm just going to hit some high points here, or I'll be here all day. This is for you to read, not for me to go over, actually. We have 3 deputies assigned to task forces, and I, being a prior task force officer, understand that sometimes these deputies get pulled in other directions, and I make sure that our deputies are doing Putnam County work. You may be stationed in Charleston or in Ona or somewhere else, but you have to be doing the people of Putnam County's work. And if not, we pull them out. So far, they've done a great job doing that, and they understand that. We have 5 vacancies in law enforcement. We hope to fill those positions as soon as possible. We're going to give a test on the 27th of this month, if I'm correct by saying that. The problem with that is getting qualified applicants. Law enforcement isn't like it was 30 years ago. 30 years ago, when I walked into the Charleston Civic Center, there's 300, 400 people there to take a job. Now, you know, the largest police department in the state, Charleston, you walk in, they've got 40 people. We're hoping to get 20, 30 people to come and test. And then from that, you have to compete with everybody else. You got Huntington down there giving $10,000 signing bonus. A $10,000. We will not. I, as your sheriff, will never do that. One, I think it's a bad investment. Two, it's an insult to the officers that have been here 10 years. I won't do that. I don't think it works. I think it's a short-term fix. So we'll never do something like that as long as I'm here. But we do have to compete. We compete by, one, is atmosphere, workplace atmosphere. Money, a lot of times, is a short fix. Now, you can give somebody a $10 bill, and 5 days later, they want another $10 bill. But if you give them $10 bills and make them happy, they may not even ask for that $10 bill. So atmosphere has a lot to do with it. And I have to say, in the last 2 months, I've had a lot of comments about there is a lot less stress in the Putnam County Sheriff's Department. And that's what we want. We deal with the stressful situations every time we go out there. These guys and girls go out there, and they deal with the stress. My girl's in the tax office. You want to be stressful, you go in there. You go in there. I mean, I'll get into the tax stuff, but I understand that we have to have other means of making our employees happy other than pay. One of the things that the commission has accepted is a new facility. A new facility will do wonders for recruiting and for the people's attitudes. If you live in a really nice house, you're probably a little happier than living in a really bad house. So that's something that I appreciate the commission recognizing. Home confinement. Home confinement is something that when I became sheriff, we changed because it needed changed. It needed change drastically. I talked to the magistrates prior to me being elected and seeing that there were issues there. They wouldn't put people on home confinement because there was a trust issue. Were they being monitored? And home confinement is alternative sentencing. And that's what people have to understand, that when you break the law, you are sentenced. Home confinement just happens to be an alternative sentencing. Right now, they have 38 people in home confinement. That is inadequate. There should be 80 people on home confinement. And we've spoken to the magistrates about getting it. And at one time, there was 80 people on home confinement. 80 people not paying a jail bill is a win-win for everybody. That means they're paying us. We're not paying the jail bill. So that's something we want to do. We want to save money that way. We'll pay our people to go out there and do the monitoring instead of putting them in the jails. And that's just the way of the future, you know, home confinement, day report, those type of things is where we need to be putting that. It's better, it's more effective, and you get better rehabilitation with that. Never forgetting that it is a sentence. John Podorf, who I hired, and John's doing a fantastic job over there, says, you're doing your sentence, you just happen to be at home doing it. You're not, John won't let you go see grandma's birthday party, because if you were in jail, you wouldn't go see grandma's birthday party. So John doesn't allow that, and I'm fully in favor of that. Skip down to civil process. The two people that are civil process are doing a great job with what they're, and I think most of y'all know our civil process servers. They have, I expect them to come up to the modern way of doing things, and a lot of that has to do with computers. Both of them are very inadequate when it comes to computers, and they're being trained. Donna over there has pulled her hair out in the last couple of weeks training these two individuals to they need to do their inputs. They need to make sure that they are doing their job. I expect everybody to be able to do their job. I put them in for an increase, explaining to them that, look, I expect more out of you. I'll be glad to pay you for it, but you're going to have to do your own jobs. I can't have Donna doing your job for you. So that's what's been expected. And then if they can't, then that's a decision they'll have to make. The bailiffs. I talked to the judges and the magistrates about the bailiffs. The responsibility of the security of the county falls to me. Nothing more is important than that courthouse over there. It stands as a bastion of security. We have to make sure that our bailiffs over there are well-trained, well-dressed. And when I say that is, when I first became the sheriff, I go over there and I see people, I see county people, my office, the sheriff's office, that are wearing attire that's not professional. I think when you go up to a window or you go to a bailiff, the bailiffs, we've told the guys, we're gonna give them a uniform allowance. We expect you to wear a blazer, I expect you to look more like this. You're in a circuit court office, you're in a circuit court judge's office. It's disrespectful being a polo shirt. You are in a place of professionalism, and I expect you to be that. I may wear a cowboy hat, but I'm the sheriff, you know? But when there are times when I need to do this, then I have no problem. Their job entails professionalism 24/7. That's why you'll see an increase where the bailiffs and those people are being expected to dress the part now. It sends a better professional thing for Putnam County. We're not little old country Putnam County that I was raised in. Brian and I can tell you, I tell the story all the time. The first deer I ever killed was in a field where Putnam General Hospital sits. And Brian, you remember that. I mean, when there was nothing here, we remember when McDonald's opens. Well, we're Putnam County now. We're what everybody looks at. We are the place where everybody wants to live. Nobody's building houses like Mr. Hobble over here. You can go to Kanawha County all day long. They're not building those houses. We want to live here. They want to live here for two reasons, too. Our government is very conservative, but our schools and our safety is why people live here. That's why. We lose one of those, we lose it all. Your schools go down, your crime rate goes up. Your crime rate goes up, your schools go down. That's inherent. It's just the way it happens. So anyway, your bailiffs there, we're going to fill a full-time position. One of the things we haven't done over the past year, and I think it has to do with COVID and a couple other things, was to not fill positions. Well, when you don't fill positions, a lot more work is expected of the other people that are here. And we just want to make sure that those positions are filled. I moved to the tax office, and Chief Crane there has done a fantastic job. She's scared to death I was going to get rid of her, so she's still walking on eggshells. And she's done a fantastic job and continues to do that. Some of the numbers here, and some of these are estimations, and some of them are the numbers that were given to me. $54 million, over $54 million collected by her office. We're overseeing 21 conservative accounts, 5 estates, and 2 more to be accepted. When I took sheriff, I had no idea about this stuff, and I still don't. But I make myself aware. I go to court with her now, so I can educate myself on this stuff. They've done 11,000 DMV registrations. DMV is restructuring, as anybody's watched the news. They're restructuring the way they're doing stuff and the way they're going to continue to do stuff by appointments only. They're going to downsize the DMV offices. All that's going to do is shove more work off onto this office. We'll take that 50 cents, don't get me wrong. We already accepted the motorcycle and the ATV stuff. We're going to get to our 50 cents at a time. We have no problem with that. They give us an option whether to do it or not to do it. 50 cents is 50 cents where I come from, so we're going to take it. So, and if they increase it, and we've talked, if they want us to do title work and things like that, and they want to pay the county, and we can be a better service to the citizens, we'll accept that too. If that does happen, we'll come back to the commission and say, hey, our workload has been crazy. Maybe we do need another window just for this stuff. Pistol permits. I am continually amazed by the pistol permits that we continue to stamp, and I think this is going to increase already this year. I mean, this was a couple weeks ago when she handed it to me, and I stamp every one of these with my signature. We've done over 200 of them January and part of February. That's the slow time of the year. We're probably going to do 2,000 or better pistol permits. With the federal administration the way it is right now, and people are in fear of the firearms, they're going to continue to do that. It's what's going to happen. So there's a lot. We could put one teller full-time doing nothing but pistol permits. These girls are over there continuously. And like I say, I get stacks of these things that I have to review and put my signature on. So that's something that will continue to increase. The DMV is online now. The girls have put that stuff online. Done a great job. Yeah, I can't say enough. I go over there every day, and do the deposits, or us three will do the deposits, and the money that we put in, the money that these ladies handle every day is just phenomenal. If we were a bank, we'd be doing real well. So, done a comparison on the girls, and it's in here, and the Kanawha County is starting their people off at $12.02 an hour with an increase of 4% starting in July. Mason County, they got a smaller pool of employees, but they're at $15 an hour for their tellers. And Cabell County is right around our range. So, a vehicle, I have provided a pass-down vehicle to Deputy Chief Crane because I didn't realize she was buying groceries for people. She was using her own vehicle on some of these conservative accounts to go buy. If she has a cancer patient she takes care of. I don't do it, my name's on it, but she does it. And she goes to Hurricane one day and she says, I gotta stop and get this gentleman his medicine and some food. I said, what are you doing, Farrah? She said, well, we have to take it, it's a conservative account, we have to take care of him. Now, we can either hire somebody to do that, or she does it. She does it. She has no reason to driving her little car over there in the wintertime, so we gave her one. And it's deserved. It's needed and deserved. Didn't buy a new one, took one of the old deputy's cars and said, here you go, you drive that thing. In conclusion, you folks can read this. I have the utmost respect for the work that the Putnam County, everybody does. I always tease Brian about being the hardest working man in Putnam County. Actually, he's not. I've seen everybody else work harder, but when they talk about raises, and these times of the year are always about raises. We want to be able to take care. We, as the elected officials, are expected to, like Brian said, take care of our families. Let's make sure we do that. I collect this money. My office collects every bit of it. We go out here and when we look at these properties, this office over here, he'll assess it, and then we'll go out and get it. We take these checks, and they write my name on those checks, and then we pass it to you to judiciously pass it out to the needs of people of Putnam County. Most of the people that work at this county level live in this county, so we're taking care of our own, and I ask you to do that. You've done a great job doing it so far. I'm the new guy on the block. Me and Brian are the new guys on the block. These other people have been around here forever. You do a great job doing it. I expect us all to continue to do that. If you have any questions budgetarily, you'll see things like $35,000 increase on, and Chief Hazlett can talk to you about that. Our Zerker system. This year we had to come to Jeremy and say we need a budget revision because we had to pay for this new computer system, which makes life easy for the deputies to provide things to the courts, all that stuff. So, but it was a $35,000 hit. This year we budgeted. If you have any questions, and I realize there's a lot in that thing, and you know, more than I can even go over. But if you do, that's why my team is here. I'll be able to answer any questions you have on personnel, but numbers-wise, that's why these folks are here. Thank you, gentlemen.
Any questions?
I do not.
Mr. Skidmore?
Just one second. So we're talking cradle points in all of our deputy vehicles, and this number reflects that?
Yeah, and that's a big kind of one-time hit to get rid of one. Maintenance-wise down the road, that won't be bad at all. But that'll do, here, take the mask off this apartment. There, go to
Yeah.
That'll do a couple things for us. Like us personally, the biggest thing it'll do is increase our connectivity in the field and improve some officer safety. We've had some situations in the past where guys have got into trouble. We didn't know exactly where they were. These cradle points will make us be able to track these cars much better than our current system and be able to pinpoint that. That'll also do some things to take some workload off of dispatch. If we get these cradle points,
we would be able to run in the field our own driver's histories and license plates and things like that. It would also allow them, since they will know where our location is, to go to more of a direct dispatching system, which will better serve the public. Instead of throwing out a call saying, hey, who's in Hurricane to take this call, they can look at their map and say, well, Eric Hazlett's 5 miles from there, we'll send him. So it'll do a number of things for us. And it's kind of a big expense, but like I said, it's a one-time deal to get it going. The upkeep of that and adding equipment, replacing equipment will be pretty feasible.
And we're looking at that for process servers as well, Cradle
Yeah,
points.
we're looking at for everybody.
Those cradle points, how are they installed in the vehicle? Is that hardwired in?
Yeah.
Yes.
They would be installed by ESI that does our normal installations. They can't be disabled. They work off a SIM card from the cell phone, which is basically why you see the cell phone bill double, because that's essentially another service line. And yeah, they're tucked up under the car. They're hardwired in, hard antenna.
When we take a vehicle out of service, can we transfer it to the
Yes.
next vehicle?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless, we may have to buy a new antenna at that time, which is a minimal expense, or if one goes bad, or normal maintenance, but.
What's
other
the
than that-
life expectancy?
What's
The
that?
life expectancy, 5 years?
5 years.
Are they under warranty for 5 years, or?
They're only a 1-year warranty, but they're supposed to be model approved for 5 years. I mean, you can move them from one to the other.
So would it be safe to assume that a new version would come out maybe within 5, with you buy another new version?
I mean, we might run into a situation when we get these things that we see that, okay, every time we set up a new car, which our life expectancy on a car is usually 4 to 5 years, that it may be time to replace that, but you'd only be replacing a few a year, not this one-time big expense.
You'd probably start looking at it as when we buy a police car, we're buying.
Yeah, we
a
would
Cradle
just
point.
probably have to spec that into the equipment to be
Right.
safe. And then, it's one of those deals that if, well, this one's fine and we've upgraded or whatever, at some point in time, we'll just reuse it.
The City of Hurricane just went through this process with all their vehicles. My understanding, connectivity-wise, when an officer would get out of the car, they would lose.
Yeah, our guys now, where they're running off the cell phone, if they get out of the car or they shut the car off to stop and get gas or
Right.
whatever, it basically disconnects from all their devices. So when they get back in, they have to reconnect everything to go back to work, so to speak. This will allow that car to basically work like a Wi-Fi system in your house, that when you fire it up, that it'll connect all your devices and stay connected. Also, from talking to our electronics guys, what he's done with the ambulance service that runs a similar situation here is that they put kind of a battery saver system on those to where it'll maintain power on those units for about 8 hours. So if they go somewhere and shut their car off, we still have the ability to know where that car is in case they get into some kind of trouble or something.
I do have one question, gentlemen. The cruisers, the 7 cruisers that we've ordered, that's going to be covered through the COVID fund, the cost to equip those cruisers, is that going to come out of COVID, or is that in the budget request, or is it current?
That's in the budget request.
That's
We
within,
didn't-
that's included with that 216,000, is that
Yeah,
what?
that's what
Correct.
that is.
And it's all, part of that 216,000 is about 125,000 is to equip those.
Okay.
Those 7 cruisers.
Okay.
Will we have any problem going forward with, if we buy that system, where you're getting a live report at headquarters, per se,
Exactly.
right? Okay, so if you continue to add 2 or 3 at a time, are all of those still gonna be able to coordinate, I guess, with the headquarters? Or are we gonna have a situation down the road somewhere, if we're doing it piecemeal, that one piece of equipment doesn't communicate with the other?
I don't believe so, because it's just like the phone that I'm carrying currently, and it kind of works the same way as a cell service, that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, that it will automatically, it just pings. It's a pinging thing. You can ping over to, and it hits the tower, which hits right into the dispatch. So I don't see that being an issue ever.
There shouldn't be any issue with going forward with the Zerker system or these cradle points integrate with each other. That's pretty well built into that. Just to expand a little bit on the $35,000, that's what that $35,000 is, our yearly support and maintenance for that system. You know, the sheriff, DeWeese at the time, purchased our portion of the system through discretionary funds. So this is kind of the first hit to our budget is the $35,000. Now, we didn't build that in last year because honestly, we didn't know exactly what it would be. But that $35,000 fee going forward every year is our support and maintenance, and it would take care of those issues that pop up about connectivity issues and stuff that Zerker will resolve those. We ran into a little bit of an issue with that recently with our field ops, which is the app on our phone that allows these guys in the field to add pictures to reports and take statements and things like that. We had an issue where Apple did an update and it kind of broke that system. They fixed it. It took a week or two, but that's the kind of things that support and maintenance will fix. So if we would have a problem going forward with compatibility with cradle points, that would be covered in that as well.
Okay, do we have areas in the county now that you don't have cell phone service? And
we have a few. They're limited. Things keep getting better and better. I know that one thing that EMS does, from my understanding, is they run two different carriers in their cradle points. They run two different SIM cards. They run AT&T and no, I don't think it's Verizon. It's
Nextel.
Nextel, maybe. No, that doesn't even sound right.
That's the one I have.
One of the things. We don't do it, so I don't know. But apparently, they get pretty much 100% coverage with that system.
One of the things that's going to help that, they're building a new tower out on Red House.
yeah, that's
Hopefully.
one of the things I'm going to there because depending on where we go with our fiber optic network, those are going to play an important role in providing wireless internet service for the people that we can't get hardwired in. There are, I need to know the spots that you don't have service because if done properly, there's a possibility that we can get the federal government to grant funds for towers to provide our internet service, which could also resolve some of your issues where you don't have service. So if you can give us a list of those areas, it may help us in another thing that we're proposing or moving forward on.
Okay. Yeah, we can certainly do that. We let these guys know. They do pretty good with that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you all.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Mr. Warner.
Gary, we're out of money. We're out of money.
Next year, we'll put you first.
My budget, of course, is just pretty much flat from last year. I just went on because I'm like Bobby, I've been here for 2 months and 9 days or whatever, so this is all new to me. I've done budgets on my past employment, but just seeing where the money's spent, how much we're spending and all that, I had to go off basically last year's. So I kept everything the same pretty much, except there's a couple items that we're going to be up in. I got those on the back page. One of them is the maintenance and repairs on our equipment. You know, we have all kinds of copiers and printers. We're starting to do in-house printing now with our PF-12s. We've been doing those with the state. Last year it was a disaster. They can't, for some reason, spit out a PF-12 with the building on it, with the structure. And we have to have that. If we go out and look at a building, we've got to have the measurements and everything right there in front of us so we know what we're looking at. They couldn't provide us with that last year, so we had to do some of that ourselves. The residential part of it, they would dupe up some districts and maps, and it was just a disaster. So we're going to be doing all in-house printing there. That's the reason we probably doubled that. I don't know how much we're going to spend there. We'll just have to wait and see, but I doubled that. The other one was under do subscriptions. That's our JD Power Books. That's where we get our NADA stuff, our values for our vehicles. And they just went up. And professional service, our aerials, those went up a little bit. Still, they're a whole lot cheaper than they was 3 years ago, but those went up. But I think you'll see a lot better quality due to those. Basically, everything else stayed the same. Like I said, this time next year, I'll hope to see, where the expenditures are and what our expenses are and be a little bit closer on these. But one thing I do want to bring up, and I didn't put it in here, is I like to have an increased pay for my employees. My opinion is I'm asking for 2.5% or above. I'm like Brian, but it's like we have to, for a good employee, in my opinion, this day and time, if they stay above poverty wages, they've got a cost of living is at least 2%, 2.5% these days. So I would appreciate if you give them at least 2.5%, if not more there. So you all know you've been in business. You're as good as your employees. And if you don't have good employees, you're not good either. So I don't have a lot. Like I said, if you got any questions for me, I'll try to answer them. If I can't answer them today, I'll find out the answer and I'll get back with you on it. But do you have any questions?
Gary, you and I have had some talks over the last week or so about TIF and TIF calculations. I know your predecessor, Ms. Hayes, had a CPA that she worked with that did calculations. And I guess my question to you is, do you feel that's still the best avenue, or does this gentleman still want to do the work? I did speak to John Stump, our bond counsel, and has helped us with TIF. And he said there are some companies out there that can help with this, or we can look at an in-house resource to look to hire. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we have the largest TIF districts in the state. So I think this is something that is important to your office, to us as a commission. And again, I didn't preface this to you, so
Sure.
But I just want to know your thoughts, if not today, sometime in the near future, of what direction you think your office should go.
Well, before I took over, really, I didn't know what TIF was, but now that we've got into it, as far as hurricanes concerned, I do understand more about it, and it's more or less about numbers. The problem is that I see the reports that I run out of the office and the report that this Scott Polchik, as he's our attorney, the numbers aren't matching. I'd like to, and put this all on a spreadsheet like hurricane, I'd like to do it in-house. I think we could do it in-house with a little bit of training. Get with somebody that knows what they're doing, tell me how they get the numbers. They got to go off our reports as far as the values and everything. So if I've got all the reports that they need to do this with, I don't understand why that we and Trish downstairs, she's got a good aspect on it, and do it in-house. But I don't know really where to start with that, or who I would, because Scott, he's in Virginia, and he would just, he just done it for Sherry all these years, and we just take what his information's correct. But I see after we got into hurricane and knowing a little bit more about it, I don't think it's 100% correct. So if we could get some training somehow, or like I said, if you know some companies, I'd be more than happy to entertain the idea for them to come in and pay for somebody to come in and teach us how to do it ourselves.
If it'd be all right with you, I'll have John Stump reach out to you and kind of give you.
Who is it?
John Stump. He's our bond counsel.
Oh, okay.
And he helped us create the TIF districts, but he works with them all over the state. So he might be able to give you some, and maybe we can get you and Jeremy together on that conversation, just to see what resources may be out there.
Yeah, it cannot be that difficult.
Right.
I mean, it just can't be that. It's numbers, and what information you're going to put out, it's going to spit back out to you, and then the percentage or whatever you go off from,
Right.
it can't be that hard. So
I agree, and I think talking to a couple of different counties that have TIF in there, that they are able to do it in-house. So maybe it is just some training that, that our employees can go through to have a better handle on it.
I'm sure it is, and I'm sure if Scott was here, he'd probably be more than happy to, because the emails I get from him, I think he does it as a favor to Sherry.
Right.
I mean, I'm getting emails at 2 o'clock in the morning, I think he does that on his own, but
Right.
yeah, if he can
Okay.
lead us there.
Jeremy, would you mind kind of spearheading that to have the Assessor Warner and John Snupp, our bond counsel, on a
Sure.
conversation?
Yep, I'll get the conversation started and we'll set up a meeting.
Where's he from? I mean, is he from?
He works out of Charleston,
Okay.
Steptoe and
He's with
Johnson.
Steptoe and Johnson, but he's the one that helped us create the TIF district.
Okay, yeah,
He's an attorney and bond counsel. for us.
gotcha. Okay. Any other questions? All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Next on the agenda is a discussion and recommendations of Putnam County Commission of the Putnam County Dilapidated and Abandoned Enforcement Agency on procedures to be followed after a complaint is received by the day of board. Larry, do you want to present this to us?
Sure.
Just to give everybody a little bit of background information on this, apparently our DEA ordinances were written in the early 2000s. They had not been, shall we say, utilized to the level that at least it appears this current county commission wants to do, and it's a learning process. We've learned a lot as we went along, and with the help of planning and Larry and the board itself, we put time and effort into finding a way to streamline it, because it was my impression from the county commission that we wanted to get those on our desk as early as possible. And so we've asked staff to come up with measures that would allow that to happen more quickly. Some of the processes as they are in place now have taken a long time, to say the least, to get to a point where we're really moving forward. I am excited about the progress we've made. I think with the planning office picking up the pace and the DEA board taking an active role in it, and we've got people cleaning stuff up, which is what the goal, I think, should be for all of us. So this will just be one step in the direction, I believe, to help speed the process. So Larry, you want to present those changes that y'all we've come up with?
The DEA board is actually authorized by West Virginia Code 7-1-3FF. And it kind of gives the framework. What I have done with the proposal here is going through and made the dilapidated and abandoned enforcement ordinance more in line with what is actually within the code. There were some steps in there that really, for whatever reason, were put in there, but were not something that were actually in the code. And just to go through it, the paragraph number 1 on page 1, the prior ordinance, every time it was done, it said the creation of the Putnam County. I changed that to continuation because we're just amending it. So that just says continuation now. Paragraph 3A still requires a written complaint be filed. The last sentence says the written complaints may be anonymous. That was something that was requested. And it was actually discussed by the DEA board. Paragraph C, and it's about midway in that paragraph. It allows the written complaints to be investigated by the DEA or a representative of the DEA board, because there was some question about whether the DEA board as a whole needed to go out and investigate, look at each one of these sites, or whether it could just be a representative. So I added in there either the DEA board or a representative of the DEA board could go out and do the investigation and bring that investigation results back to the DEA board. And then about halfway through, the complaint can be investigated either 30 days before or after the written complaint is received. There may be situations where the DEA board is aware of something, but no written complaint has been filed. they may have already looked at it, and then when the written complaint is filed, under the old ordinance, they had to go out and investigate it again after they'd already investigated it previously.
Where is this part?
It is it's in paragraph C on page 2, and it's about halfway through there. Talks about on private land within 30 days, either before or after the written.
So that means if the day board's aware of a situation, then they receive the complaint, it doesn't start 30 days from the day they get the complaint because they're already aware of the situation?
Yes.
Okay.
And we've had a couple of those where, in investigating one complaint from a written complaint, you may see something else. So they're already aware of it, no written complaint, and everything has to start with a written complaint.
This would also give us the ability at some point in the future, if we decided to hire somebody to actually look for sites that, and they would be the one that would actually write the written complaint. They wouldn't have to go back and reinvestigate. So it's setting us up for something in the future if we decide to go to the next step and have somebody that actually actively seeks these sites. Is that correct?
Correct. Paragraph D is basically a new one. Under the old ordinance, the investigation would be done, and then assuming that the investigation on the written complaint was found to be valid, we would then, the DAA board would then send a letter, or the planning office would then send a letter to the landowner telling them they had 30 days in which to submit a plan of action to correct the problem. That was not something that was actually within the statute itself. Again, that was for whatever reason, that was added in there, but it was not something that was required by the statute. The statute actually says that complaints that are authorized by it are brought by petition by the county engineer on behalf or at direct direction of the enforcement agency, but only after the enforcement agency has investigated and determined that basically a problem exists. So this will eliminate the requirement of a letter being sent to the landowners asking them to provide us with a plan. It could potentially cut out 30, 45 days of under the current ordinance if this is adopted.
So under the new program, if I follow D correctly, it eliminates that.
It eliminates that
The
requirement.
letter, it eliminates the time frame they have to respond to the letter and their possible cleanup, how they're going to clean up. At this point, it would come to the county commission, and we would be the first ones to contact the person with the problem, or?
Yes.
Okay. So staff finds the problem. There's no communication with that resident at that point in time or before it gets to the county commission?
There might be some communication, but it no longer requires that the planning send them out a letter saying you've got 30 days to give us a plan.
So the process would be that planning would contact them and say, hey, we've got a complaint here, we're going to forward it to the county commission with recommendations. You can go ahead and start your cleanup now. So literally, they could be in the process of cleaning up sooner, knowing that it's going to go to the county commission.
Yes.
So it should give them more incentive to start cleanup quicker.
Yes.
So that's coming from the planning office, not the DAA board. Is that correct?
Excuse me?
The communication's coming from the planning commission office?
Yes.
Okay.
And it provides as well that the planning agents, or the DAA board, if for some reason the investigation is done and we're not sure what to do with it, or we think we need more information, we would inform the county commission of what steps we're taking to gain more information. But in addition to that, if a complaint comes in after it's investigated, one way or the other, it's going to be forwarded to the county commission, either with recommendations, or we could do that anytime, but certainly recommendations to the county commission, even if there's a complaint, the complaint always has the recommendations that are being made for the cleanup. So one way or the other, whether it's done by way of a complaint or whether we just forward the complaint to the county commission with our recommendations as to how it should be handled. The recommendations are not binding upon the county commission, and they can change, alter, or reject them as they see fit.
Okay, so as I'm seeing this, and see if I'm reading it correctly, we have 30 days to inspect it. Anytime after it's inspected, it could go to the day of board.
Correct.
And then the day of board would pass it along to us with recommendations. During that 30-day period of time, or after that 30-day period of time, or once the inspection completed, planning then needs to have procedures whereby they work with that client in advance. That's something that doesn't need to be in the ordinance. Is that correct, or does it need to be in the ordinance?
Doesn't necessarily have to be. We can certainly insert that.
So what's your feelings on that, guys?
I just want to make sure that it's, I guess it's going to the day of board before it comes to us.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That was my concern, is that, it's not, we want to expedite it, but we don't want to skip anything.
No, that it will go to the day of board first.
Okay.
And if the day of board believes that it is appropriate, we'll have the county engineer go ahead and prepare the complaint. If there's something kind of unique or something about it, we'll still forward the complaint to the county commission with recommendations about, and I put some of them in the proposed ordinance here, recommendation that the county commission dismiss, recommendation to allow the homeowner additional time to correct the problem because they're working with the planning commission. A recommendation that you refer it back to the county or the day of board. And those are just some examples, not an exhaustive list.
Okay.
But one way or the other, the complaints, once they're received and investigated, there can be communication between planning and the landowner to let them know that there's a potential problem here, that they might want to start getting corrected. But we would still refer that to the county commission. The county commission then could make a decision about whether they wish to proceed with it, refer it back, dismiss it, but allows the county commission then to make the decision.
Okay, so under this, Larry, at what point would we have to send them notice some way to have the public hearing, right?
Yes, after the complaint is filed or after it is referred to the county commission. If the county commission thinks that it knows to go forward, a complaint could be filed. And then in paragraph H, they can request a hearing within the 10 days. If they do, it has to be scheduled within 20 days. And then I is the procedure that's followed.
Okay, so I'll just make sure I'm fully understanding. Planning commission would be working with them, get it cleaned up. Verbal communication, written communication, whatever communication. I would assume they would put it on the day of board, whatever the next meeting of the day of board is. The day of board then would send those recommendations along to us with whatever they are. We could either accept that and give them more time because planning's having good success with them, or we could go ahead and file the formal complaint if they're slow about getting to it or they're just not communicating at all. So we're just to that step, and at the time we file that formal complaint, they would have 10 days to request a formal hearing.
Correct.
So looks to me, we're anywhere from 30 to 60 days ahead of where we would be the other way. And even further, if we have trouble finding them, locating them, and getting them served.
Correct.
Or with that, the letter, I guess, that we're doing now, certified letter. So in those circumstances, I think there's been at least one of them that's taken months to finally locate them.
Sometimes it does. We've had instances where we've had to try 2 or 3 different addresses. I've got some databases that planning and I have worked with to try to find them. On a occasion, I've actually referred them over to the prosecutor's office that actually has some additional databases, and we have been able to find just about everybody, I think. It just, the first step, though, I think, I think the first step that you have to do, though, is you've got to notify the landowner that there is a potential issue here that needs corrected, or it needs their attention.
Which we would be doing that now at the complaint stage instead of back at that original letter stage, right?
Correct.
And we would still have the obligation to find them in order for them to get a copy of the complaint, and that 10 days would start at the time they are served with that complaint.
Correct. And the other changes in there are basically to change the language so that it is more consistent with what's in the code itself. It didn't really change any of the procedures. It simply modified the language so that it is, I basically copied what was in the code itself so that it's more consistent.
Any other questions?
I go back and forth on changing, allowing the anonymous complaint. I do see the merit and reason. It still states written complaint, right? It still has to be written.
Still has to be a written complaint.
I worry that it could potentially lead to frivolous situations, but I guess it's one thing if we open it, make this change, and that does become an issue, then we could potentially change it back.
Correct.
Yeah, I think one of the problems we're having now is that I don't want to say this, there's a lot of them out there. And there are people who, because sometimes it's their neighbor,
right?
You don't want to pit neighbor against neighbor. And if you look at a lot of the things, from this, I'm just going to stretch a point to make a point. Child abuse, you're allowed to do anonymously. There's a lot of other ones that you are allowed to do anonymously. If we really want to get the county cleaned up, we're probably going to have to do it this way. Otherwise, I don't think you're going to get some of them ever reported.
I agree with Andy. It becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Well, I'd have no, if it becomes a problem, I can't imagine any of us not wanting to change it back. I think it was always, one part of our code said one thing, but then a form said another, is the reason why we're even having this discussion, because I think the intent was to have anonymous allowed, but I think our report said it had to be, if it wasn't signed, I think it was in our ordinance somewhere. No, it was on the form that you filled out. The form said if it wasn't anonymous, wouldn't be accepted. But
Yeah.
everything else indicated that basically it would, so there was that's why we're clearing this up. We'd have to change that form to say it would be allowed.
Yeah, the ordinance itself that allows the creation of it just says it has to be a written complaint. It doesn't say whether it's signed or unsigned. The form, though, that for the complaint does have a place on it that says cannot be anonymous.
Any other discussion on it? Larry, should we approve these one by one or lump sum, or do you guys have some that you're still concerned about, or do you want to go through them one by one?
No, I think I'm good.
Do you want me to specifically add something in there that the DAYA board or the planning will contact the landowner?
Yeah, I think we should, that planning will develop procedures for working with the landowner while the rest of the process is being played out.
Yeah, I agree.
That way it's clear that planning is supposed to work, and the DAYA board too, for that matter. I don't see any reason why the DAYA board, if they can help get it cleaned up before it gets to us.
Whole goal and all of it, I hope.
Yes. I think once we get further into the process and people know that we're serious about it, I think that initial contact is going to get people kick-started a lot more than it does now, because for years we haven't processed them with the same interest that we are now, and I think that's probably become known, but it'll become known, I think, really quickly that we're taking it seriously.
The one on Tays Valley Road, they started.
They were weeding yesterday.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, good. And they have a for sale sign in front of
Yeah.
it.
Yes.
And the tire store, even though it's been mentioned to us before, we don't have a formal written complaint, but they've already got all the tires cleaned up.
Right.
So I think everybody's starting to get the message, which is a good thing. And the doctor's facility there, or his home, will sell for much more money once he gets cleaned up anyway, so it's doing him a service as well, I believe.
Well, we have two different agenda items. Larry, you want us to do these separately, or?
The two agenda items, I think we kind of collapsed the one, or the first one into the second one.
Okay, so that's all just one. I make a motion to approve the changes to the Putnam County Dilapidated and Abandoned Enforcement Agency procedures and the ordinances that have been presented.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. I want to amend it to add language stating that planning will be responsible for developing procedures to start the cleanup prior to it coming to the county commission.
I changed my motion to amend to, as Commissioner Foster stated.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, VOCA grant application? Do it fast.
All right. I have the 2021 Victim of Crime grant application for the Sheriff's Department. This grant pays for one victim advocate that works at the Sheriff's Department, that works with individuals who are victims of crimes throughout the county. The only difference between this application and last year's application is, like they have the past few years, the state is offering the grantees the option to ask for a 4% cost of living increase. So the Sheriff's Department has asked us to include that in this grant application. So we are going to request $38,690 in grant funds, and that requires a $9,673 match. So
What was the match?
$9,673. It's a 20% match, which really it just equates to a $1,727 increase from last year in grant funds and a $367 increase in matching funds. The grant pays 100% of their salary.
Any discussion?
Who oversees that?
The Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, the sheriff has one and the prosecutor.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's need a motion for the president to sign.
Make a motion to approve fiscal year 2021 VOCA grant application and authorize the president to sign.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Depends on how long your all's discussion takes.
No.
Okay,
Architectural services agreement with Sealing Associates to design sheriff's facility and remodel existing sheriff's facility. Jeremy Young.
Okay, I'll start it off. Ron, just feel free to add whatever comments you want to make. Commissioner Foster and I met with Silling and Associates last week. Actually, I believe it was the end of the week before, and have gone back and forth with trading some emails and some questions. I've given you their cost proposal in front of you. To get straight to the point, their total design fees in the agreement is $334,333. You see they have out to the side, that's 7.9% of the total budget. Also, I want to point out on D1, it's 9.25% of what they're estimating the construction cost only to be. I did ask them that, it seemed a little high on the front end, and Tom Potts had sent us some information back, pretty detailed, and on some of the things that we had suspected. Most importantly, The design fee on a remodel is probably a little higher than a design fee percentage-wise on a new construction. Also, there were some other things that caused that cost to go up, such as a stormwater management MS4. We're in a region within the state that requires that MS4 to be done. The cost estimate for that is $240,000, which is basically underground detention system that includes pipes, soils, refilling the pavement. And then also a line item that was added was an emergency generator. I felt that was probably something that's needed, especially with the power outages that we just experienced. And for the sheriff's department, they are open 24/7, so important to put that in there. So the other thing I want to point out is that I think they base these numbers on a $2 million new building construction cost and a $560,000 remodel construction cost. And from where they don't do this agreement on a percentage basis, I think they put a little cushion in there because I do think they expect this total project to grow higher than that 2.56. I know there's a lot of other costs that aren't directly related to the construction contract, but I do think that there's potential that this project could be higher than the initial estimates based on those being on the low end. So long story short, I think that by the time this goes to bid, that percentage will be more in line with what we had envisioned in the beginning, probably near 7%, somewhere in that range overall, possibly lower.
Yeah, and in his response back to Jeremy's questions, and Jeremy and I had already talked about this prior to him even responding back, that when you get into overhauling an old building, you have to recheck to make sure it's all still structurally sound and all that. You also will have to recheck your heating, ventilating, air conditioning, and there's a lot of additional, I think, architectural work that goes into that. So we anticipated it would come in a little bit higher, at least on that portion. And I think Jeremy is right that overall the cost is going to go up, materials and everything going through the roof right now anyhow. So I believe that they'll probably come in kind of close to the higher range that we had down at the park when all said and done. So I'm actually okay with it. Y'all put Jeremy and I on that committee, and I think we're both comfortable at this point.
Now, this is a totally outside the county, I'll say, not like the park where we overseeing the project. We don't have anything to do with this. This is totally, another engineering firm is going to double check and check again.
Well, we have not had, that is not in this budget.
That's right.
There will be third-party testing. I don't know if he included that in here or not, did he?
Yeah, there's an estimate there.
Yeah, third-party testing, $25,000. We will have somebody on our behalf that's going to do compaction testing, check the steel, and basically.
We're not going to have Jared Dean
No,
check us.
no.
So that's what I'm getting at, is
Yeah.
because I took a tour of the parks yesterday, and there were several things that caught my eye, but should have been addressed.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
So that's what, we don't want another.
No, we got to.
Yeah, and the good thing with this project is that it's on-site and not just having our staff here to check the daily progress. We also have our maintenance staff that works here that I can have check out the progress as well. And obviously, the ceiling will have a construction manager on-site periodically as well, so.
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the architectural services agreement with Ceiling Architects as presented.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
There's one location for the commission president to sign.
And I'll amend my motion to authorize the president to sign.
Second?
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
These that are on our desk here, are these for us to review and then make a decision?
Yeah,
on at
those
the end of the
are for
month?
you to review. I know we discussed putting that on the second meeting in March agenda. So if we want to have those three individual companies come in and present according to the way that
Well, since we only have three, I'd go ahead and just schedule all three of them. And then we can review this in the meantime and hopefully be educated enough to at least ask some questions.
Okay, sure.
I'm gonna take all of it.
Okay.
All right, anything else on the agenda?
I have the order.
Oh,
You just need to sign it. All right. Already approved all that, right?
do we need to make a motion for that order to be signed or
We
not?
approved it. We did the amendment with it in
So
there.
we're good. Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're not going to change the policy for people that are already under the program. How do you guys want me to, or are you going to do it, Larry? You remember the DAA board. Do you want to translate or transfer what happened here to planning so they know they have to develop a plan? How long do we want to give them to do that plan? Shouldn't take them next to any time at all. So tell them we need it by the next meeting, and do we want to approve that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so have them have it ready for us for the next meeting, and we'll put it on the agenda and approve it. Okay.
Are we
Anything else need to come before us?
adjourning to our work session or?
Let's adjourn to our work session, but you
Because
need to head out.
Yep. So we'll recess till our, or it's not, let's say, I make a motion, we adjourn till our work schedule session scheduled at, is it 1 or 12:30? At 12:30 PM later today.
Second.
Got a motion, second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Andy, what time do you think you'll be back?
No idea.
Okay. The meeting here in Putnam County?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioners, Foster, do you want to meet,
Hey, Brian, tell Brian what I'm doing.
Yeah, I will.
do you want to have the work session in here? Or
Let's go to the smaller room, it'd be easier to do, I think.
Well, I brought my lunch. If you guys need to go out for lunch, I'll meet y'all back in there whenever you are ready.
You brought your lunch and didn't bring us anything?
I just had a feeling I'd have to eat on the go, and that's pretty much what I'm left to do.
I'm gonna run and get me a bite to eat, and I'll be back.